Welcome to HFY Stories. Please subscribe to the channel. Your one click means the world to me. 3 days after the wall stopped shaking, Falcon still wouldn't look at her. He was a KRLX, built for intimidation, and he flattened himself against a corridor bulkhead just to let a human girl half his mass walk past with her data pad under her arm. Vextha watched it happen from the far end of the hall and felt the same question turning over in him that had been turning for 3 days straight. What does it take to make something that size flinch? Rewind 3 days, and none of it seemed possible yet. Fourth period, station standard Tuesday, a classroom sized for 15 different spines and smelling like it always did when too many species shared one ventilation loop. Professor Krillinith gestured through a hologram of collapsing probability with 2 of his 6 arms while nobody wrote anything down. Jackson's exoskeleton ticked against his chair leg. Pilia hummed low and constant, the sound she made when she was anxious, which was always. 3 rows up, Corin's cluster traded notes they thought no one could see. And beside Vextha, close enough that he could hear the stylus moving, Riley Tors sketched something with too many teeth in the margin of a page she wasn't using for notes. 8 cycles into the galactic community, humans were still a question mark most species answered with distance. Earth carried a Category 12 rating, a death world, officially, the kind of place that should have culled its own dominant species generations before anyone left orbit. And yet here they were, 30 of them scattered through an academy of 2,000, mostly quiet, mostly unremarkable, smiling with all their teeth in a way the briefing said meant content rather than threat. Vextha had filed Riley under harmless, without ever really deciding to. Falcon stood without asking permission, and the room went still before anyone understood why. You signaled before you moved on a shared station. Standing cold was a declaration, and Krillinith's arms seized mid-gesture as the boy's hand disappeared into his vest. When it came back out, it was holding a blade, curved, ceremonial, long as a forearm, and every hope Vextha had that it might be something else collapsed at once. Chairs went over. A Capelian by the door didn't stop moving until she was 3 corridors away. Vextha's own legs simply refused him, locked to the seat, while the only thought his mind could produce on repeat was, "Sharp" meant, "Don't be next." Falcon leveled the knife at Riley and told her exactly what her silence toward him had cost, that being unseen by her was an injury to everything his bloodline had earned, and that he was naming the debt now in front of witnesses, so no one could claim later he hadn't given her a chance to answer it. Riley set her stylus down like someone interrupted mid-sentence by something only mildly interesting. "You're mad because I never noticed you," she said. "That's an actual first for me. People usually want less attention, not more. You mock what should humble you." "I'm really not. I'm just trying to figure out if this is a bit." She stood, unhurried, the way you'd rise to get water rather than face a drawn blade, and started closing the distance between them. Vextha's chest locked. Walking toward the knife wasn't courage. It was a math problem nobody survived solving. "That thing," she said, nearer now, nodding at the blade. "Is it supposed to be doing something to me right now?" Falcon told her the weapon had been carried by warriors longer than her species had kept written history, and that she would answer for her disrespect one way or another. She kept coming. "Where I grew up, kids carry knives before they can spell their own names properly. Mine's in my bag right now if you want a look." Something in his grip shifted barely, a fraction of a degree, and Vextha saw him catch himself stepping back before the motion finished. "Put it away," she said, softer now, almost kind. "Sit down. We let this be nothing. The challenge is made. It cannot be unmade." "Sure it can." She moved. Vextha blinked once, and the room had already finished rearranging itself around a different truth. The blade sat turned lazily between Riley's fingers, catching the light the way it had in Falcon's hand a second earlier, except now it was a tool being appraised, not a weapon being wielded. Falcon was on the floor, one arm folded behind him at an angle that had to hurt, palm pressed flat in what Vextha recognized, with a lurch, as surrender. Nobody had seen the motion happen. There had been no motion to see, only a before, and an entirely different after, with nothing legible stitched between them. Decent balance, Riley said, testing the edge with her thumb, conversational as a shopkeeper. Bit heavy for me, but you kept it honed. That's discipline. Then, glancing down, arm okay? No, let's adjust. Communication really would have saved everyone the drama today. Security arrived to find a human standing over a pinned warrior with his own knife, and the room too stunned to explain any of it fast enough. Riley handed the blade over grip first, gave a summary clean enough to file as a report, and asked, entirely serious, whether they could finish this after class, since the exam was next week. By lunch, half the class had drifted into orbit around her table, half out of curiosity, half because standing near her had started to feel like standing near weather that had decided, inexplicably, to be gentle. She told them about Earth like she was reading off a bus schedule, spiders that shared human houses and sometimes killed slowly enough to ruin a week, plants you learn to avoid before you learn to read, storms that fell out of clear sky and put people in the ground by lightning alone. She wasn't boasting. That was the part that undid Vex the most completely, catastrophe, recited without a flicker of pride in it. So the knife, he said finally, meant nothing, because everything else where you're from is worse than a knife. Pretty much, she smiled, all her teeth this time, and it didn't read as threat anymore, only as something he hadn't found the right word for yet. A knife doesn't hunt you, doesn't fall out of a clear sky. It's honest. Compared to home, it's the easy part. Which brought him back to the corridor, 3 days later, watching Falcon hold up a wall rather than meet her eyes. Riley stopped at a vending unit halfway down the hall, thumbed the bottle opener attachment out of her little red multi-tool without looking at it, popped a drink, and pocketed the tool again. The same unbothered motion. Vextha realized that she'd used to turn a war blade over in her hand 3 days before. She didn't glance back at the wall Falcon was still holding up. She didn't need to. Everyone on the station already understood, now, exactly what she was capable of choosing not to do.